Good morning. Here we are, just starting out a new week after the great Sunday. Just what a wonderful day. Couldn't say enough of thanks for everybody's participation. We had so many gift cards, grocery gift cards donated, and so many turkeys donated, and then just cash donated that we used to buy turkeys and gift cards. And it was what a great Sunday, and the whole thing, it was just amazing. And my goal as the pastor, it was to get people that have never been a part of a big day to see it, to see what could be done with some human effort and a lot of prayer. And it was terrific. Now, of course, at church there were church was a little slim Sunday morning, though we still had two adult visitors. Both of them were Christians already, but two newer people who were looking for an old-fashioned Baptist church. And one was looking for a Baptist church. One was looking just for an old-fashioned church. He said, "I've tried visiting churches, and it's just noise. The music is just noise." And well, you may not like the preaching here, but the music's music. It's not noise. But we had a good day at church, and then of course out. Number wise, we had I scribbled a note here: 2,346 people in I think there were nine public services, so 2,346, and there were 488 professions, public professions of faith, and that's a great thing. The fact that 4,300 people heard the gospel who would not have heard the 2,300 people heard the gospel who would not have heard the gospel. That's just tremendous. And that was of course Jesus. We get this thing stuck on church. Let's go to church, and I'm for church. I'm pro church. I've got a problem with people who don't go to church. I think you ought to have your church. You be a member of your church, attend your church, be loyal to your church, support your church, pray for your church. I'm all pro church. But the majority of Jesus' ministry and the apostles' ministry, because there weren't churches, it was out in public, daily in the temple and house to house. The people, the New Testament people, they met everywhere, did everything, and they preached anywhere they get a chance, anywhere there was a room, they out in public, wherever. And our theme of these big days has always been the same. The last verse in the book of Mark, Mark 16, I think it's verse 32, it says, and they went forth and preached everywhere, the Holy Ghost working with them. They went forth and preached everywhere. That's the goal of a big day. Now, we've had, 170 families or something like that we've counted move out of the area. And of course, there's always the people moving church to church and whatever else. But locally, but we're talking about people who have moved out of the area, took their California equity and headed east before the market caught up to California. And I have no animosity toward them. I hate losing friends and having people move, but whatever God leads, their business, not mine. I can still miss a friend, but we have filled the building up. But who's a bus driver? Who's a bus mechanic? Who knows how to teach Sunday school? And who understands giving? Who understands soul winning, witnessing to somebody and leading them to Christ, and all those things that you have to be taught as a church. And so, though we have, the attendance is good, we have not replenished all the specialized laborers, people who know what to do. And so, one of my goals with this big day this weekend was just to get new people to come out and see what could be done. And we had so many new people, new Spanish people from our Spanish church, new Spanish speaking people, and new English speaking people. We had, there's so many. I don't even know how many people opened a Bible and preached. I got to go to one meeting at the end of the day. I did Sunday school and church, and then locked everything up at church because all the workers were gone. And so I did what the staff normally does, and then I went and found one meeting, and there were three different men preaching. One of our recent college graduates to the kids, and one of our young men to the English adults, and then one of our men in the Spanish department preaching to the Spanish-speaking people. And it was great, just great. But all over that went on, many different people preaching. And I love that. I love when a guy who works in an office is also able to preach out in public. And our school principal, Brother Beal, he was the first one that was asked on his group. He wasn't heading it up, he just was there. and they asked him to preach. And I thought, I love that we've got a guy who's smart, who's, he loves calculus and high math, trigonometry, and a research engineer kind of a brain, who can also manage people, who also can work with his hands, and he's got no problem preaching out in the public and on the street as well. That's balanced Christianity. And you from Faith Baptist, you have a blessing. And Brother Greg Beal, I've never met anybody like him in any other church. So what a privilege we have him. We've had him for these decades. But anyway, the great weekend. You that gave, you that prayed, you that just went and passed out flyers, it all put together. And there are so many good reports. I just couldn't get into it. Now, let me just take a moment and mention what I have said often before out of Ephesians chapter 4. The church is not a spectator sport. The church is not a place where you go hear a concert. The church is not a place where you go and you're entertained by a funny preacher. The church is not a counseling session where you go get marital counseling or family counseling or depression or anti-depression counseling. No, the church is a place where, according to the Bible, you are taught how to do the work of the Lord. Really, in the New Testament, people were saved out and around, and they brought the converts to church. They were baptized, and then they were taught. Here's the passage in Ephesians chapter 4, and I got the wrong page here. It says he gave some apostles, I'm in Ephesians 4:11. He gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some teachers, pastors and teachers, for, here's why you have leadership. For number one, the perfecting of the saints. Number two, the work of the ministry. And number three, the edifying of the body of Christ. So my job, our staff's job, the primary job is to perfect the saints so they can do the work of the ministry. Our job is to make sure we teach them good Bible doctrine. Our job is to teach them how to witness, how to share their faith, how to be a good teacher. What do you do to keep a room full of children? What do you do to keep their attention? That's our job, to perfect the saints for the work so they can do the work of the ministry. And so the staff job, our job, is to help people not only learn the right things in their head, but also learn to walk with God. That's in their heart. And then also how to do this work. How do you do bus work? How do you go out and gather a crowd on a street corner, and so that 100 or 200 people will stand there out in public and hear you preach and give the gospel? And the how-to, that's the church. God gave the church leadership to help the people know how to, and how to run a youth department, how to run a camp, how to run a bus program, how to run how to teach boys and girls the Bible, all these things. So the Lord gave the apostles, prophets, pastors, and teachers. He gave leaders, we'll just say, for the perfecting of the saints. That's number one. Number two, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ. And so what we did yesterday was, one of the reasons for yesterday was to help new people who are saved. And maybe they got saved in some other church, maybe they've been saved for many years, but they've never learned, they've never seen what they could do, they've never seen their own potential. And so we put this together, and the staff knew. I never even mentioned an attendance goal. I have no big attendance goal in mind. I wanted us to get, my concern was, how many newer people can we get to see? And I watched that. I only got to one meeting, and there were at least 9, maybe 10 different meetings. But the one I got to, we were able to watch and see new people just almost in shock at what was going on. And these were from our Spanish department as well as our English department. And just what a wonderful day, because we want, as staff, we want to perfect people for the work. And I guarantee you, by the time everybody got home Sunday night, there were people rehashing what they did, what they could have done, what could have been done differently, what might have gone better if we had, whatever it might be. And there were people who, next time we have a big day like this, they're going to be ready to go. And we could easily have taken what we had this day, on yesterday morning, on this big day, and probably split, instead of into 4 teams, we probably could have had 8 teams and gone out. But that's next time we'll do that. This time we were creating the vision, we were instructing the how-to, and I'm excited about the future. I don't want to die. Like the old song, I want to die on the battlefield. I want to press on and keep going and make a difference. And I hope you will pray. Hope you'll pray for our church. Pray for our workers. Pray that people will grow in grace. And we want people saved and baptized, and then we want them to grow. We don't just want a bunch of folks coming to church, sitting there saying, oh, enjoy the sermon, enjoy the music, and they go home. No, we want them to find a niche to serve in. And there's all different gifts, and we've talked about that in church. But we keep going. And the point is, what I've done, someone, many times people have said, I've never seen anything like this. Where did that come from? I'll tell you where it came from. It came from me watching Dr. Jack Hiles in the ministry at First Baptist Church in Hammond. And I know some people are going to be critical of Brother Hiles. They don't know anything. They're a bunch of idiots. I was there and I saw that place, and the number, well over 1,000 preachers around the world sent out from that place, and just the good that went on. Of course, there's Jesus had a Judas. Of course, there's evil that gets into any organization. But the things that went on at Hyles Anderson College and under the ministry of Dr. Jack Hyles, where no one's ever even come close to it in our lifetime. In the 20th century, in the 19th century, we saw some big citywide revival meetings, but still not church building, not sending out. The closest thing maybe be Shubal Stearns back in the 1700s, who out of the Sandy Creek Baptist Church. It took 100 years, but they started 1,000 churches out of that Sandy Creek church. And Shubal Stern was the one who started that, saved under the ministry of George Whitfield. But since then, I don't know a church who's done as much as Brother Hyles. And I am for Brother Hyles. And if you're not, you're very likely just a critic without the right information. You've listened to the wrong people and you've not gotten the right information. But it's all right. You want to be a critic, that's between you and the Lord. But where did we learn this big day thing? Well, I was at Hyles Anderson College just a matter of a couple of months, and we had a big day planned, and we went everywhere. And my job, they assigned us different things, and different groups of people did things. One group, 4 or 5 guys, took a pickup truck loaded with whatever kind of prizes and promotion they had, and they went to the parking lot outside the Sox Stadium, and they had a big day, and all the people coming out of the stadium, and they had a megaphone, and they got people to gather around, and they preached. What I got to do, and several of us, and I've mentioned it, maybe you've heard me talk about it, is I went on the city bus and got on the bus and rode that bus and preached and just gave the gospel. Then got off the bus and got on the next bus. Rode those buses all over Chicago preaching the gospel, and had one of the teenagers from my bus route with me, and he had a clicker just counting. I don't know how many people I preached to, but I preached to hundreds and hundreds of people. And everybody had a place, and we preached everywhere. And there were tens of thousands of people heard the gospel that day. And so what we learned from Dr. Hyles in the ministry at First Baptist, we implemented on a very small scale, obviously, here in Wildomar. And over these years, thousands of people have heard the gospel, because the big work of God is getting the gospel out. It's not sitting in an auditorium feeling good about church or feeling good about the music. Now, I'm glad people like church. I hope people enjoy my preaching. I hope people enjoy the music. But that's not the big thing. The big thing is being equipped to take the gospel out to the world. The gospel, G-O, go into all the world and preach the gospel. And if all we do is get the gospel to people who come to church, we will let the rest of our city go to hell. And that is not the will of God. And if we want to do the will of God, so I've been here 43 years doing this same thing and working at it, and our church has been working at it since we started the church. But here's how long we go. In Ephesians chapter 4, it says we do those things for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come in the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. We keep doing this till we see Jesus. That's how long we do this. And we just keep going until we drop dead and we go see him, or we are raptured up and we go see him. The great work of God is souls. God sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might have life through him. And if God sent his Son into this world, it's okay that he sends us into this world. And they killed him, obviously. And so everybody's not going to like us. And go to some mission fields. People are in prison for their faith. But that doesn't matter. What matters is the gospel is preached. And what a great weekend. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for all of your help. And I want to encourage you, pray, pray, pray that God would do great things through us this next year. We're coming right on the end of 2025. And I sometimes think about 2001, A Space Odyssey, and oh, this spooky, ooh, who knows what's going to happen in 2001? Well, that's a long time ago now, 24 years ago. And you know what happened? Same thing. Sinners need saved. Jesus needs exalted. The church ought to be built and loved, and ought to be training people to serve Him. So let's keep at this great, great work of preaching the gospel and getting it out to the world around us.